Familiar faces in the crowd. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for the April meeting of the Tahoe Board of Directors. We will go into open session, call to order, and we'll start with a report of actions taken in closed session.
Thank you, Chair McGarry. The board considered 3 items in closed session. All 3 of them were approved. Closed session minutes, annual infection control report, and medical staff credentialing. Those votes were 5-0 on all 3 items.
Thank you very much. Do we have any deletions or corrections to the posted open session agenda? Nope. Item 10, audience input. I think we have a few members of the public tonight. Just a reminder, this is an opportunity for the public to address the board on items which are not on the agenda. If you wouldn't mind, please state your name for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And just a reminder, with the Brown Act, items presented in public, we cannot take action on. Good evening.
Good evening. Chair of the Hearing Board of Directors, I'm Pam Hofday, owner of Pamela Hurd Associates and a hospital volunteer for 24 years. I have a story of gratitude to share with you tonight. I'm very excited to tell this story. So I wrote it out, practiced it, so it would be within 3 minutes. And I'm going to talk. Is this not on? Is it on now?
Oh, it wasn't on, so we'll start the clock over.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I need every second I can get.
And if you run out of time, I'll read the last of it for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. So several weeks ago, I received an urgent email to attend a community leader meeting that had to do with a community crisis. In the 24 years I've lived here, I've never received such an email. This meeting was organized by the Town of Truckee and the Community Foundation. Those attending all special districts, Ted Owens represented the hospital district. We were all there, and that we learned that during these extraordinary and challenging times, we needed to help our immigrant families, neighbors, and employees be able to have access to key services Sierra Community House could provide, specifically deportation and immigration legal services, and a Know Your Rights campaign. The police informed us, talked, educated all of us. The school district did. We learned that about 30% of our school population are immigrants. And of that 30%, about 75% of those families have at least one undocumented family member. The heart-wrenching part of this education was listening to our students, who explained the absolute terror and fear their families are living under right now. Grandmothers and mothers who are afraid to grocery shop or go to church. Students who are afraid to go home and see who isn't there. We learned that Sierra Community House since 2007 serves as the only legal aid program in the region, and there currently, at that time, was close to 100 people on the waiting list to receive immigration and deportation legal advice. We had 3 meetings. At the end of 3 meetings, a very small group, including Deidre Henderson, myself, and 2 of the staff from Sierra Community House met to just say how much money is needed and how much time. Well, we found out the time was 7 days and a deep 6 figures. So we committed. Day 1, I met with Stacy Caldwell from the Community Foundation to see if there could possibly be matching funds for the dollars needed. The Community Foundation has an emergency community fund. She said yes. I started to make my phone calls. Number 1 on my list was Ted Owens. And so I told Ted that I was going to ask everyone for $25,000, and could he please talk to Lewis and help. Day 2, I received the most heartfelt, compassionate email from Lewis Ward granting the 25K. I'm going to keep going. I continued my meetings and phone calls. I'm sorry, there's just a little bit left, but it's the heart of it. Day 3, I met with a donor in Tahoe City. I asked him for the $25,000 after telling him about the community foundation's matching dollars and the hospital district's contribution. He leaned forward in a pensive way and he said, "I'm really sorry, Pam, I can't commit to $25,000. And my heart sank. Then he got a little smile on his face. He said, "I'm going to commit to $50,000. And I jumped up and down, you can imagine, hugging. And he said, "The real reason is I found that the hospital district contributing was a ray of hope and inspiration to me." We met our goal within 7 days. There's still a huge, heavy lift. But tonight, I just wanted to say I'm so grateful to each of you and your leadership in helping our hospital continue to provide the promise of hope and inspiration for the community. And to our new CEO, just a huge community welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Jessie Griffin, or Clarence Oddbody, because I do the Christmas wish box. I'm a senior advocate for everybody, but mostly for extended care getting bigger. Nobody here is getting any younger, including me, and Ted. The need is great. We don't have enough IHSS workers. We don't have enough people on the outside. We have a lot of seniors that are single. And we need to get the resources. The other thing is, what I hear from the seniors is, why don't they have a geriatric unit that handles senior problems? Heart, brain, neuropathy, senior illnesses. And I'm hoping to open a gateway to talk to you, Anna, over at the Truckee Donner Senior Apartments. I would love to invite you and my Rotarians on the board. And Lewis, Ted's been there. But we need low-income housing. We need a bigger ECC. People don't want to die off the mountain if they've lived here 50, 60 years. Why should they? It can pay for itself. It may not be instant, but it will pay for itself. And it will give people dignity and choice to their families. If they don't have families, it's like reach out and touch people and ask them questions, and I thank you. Did I do good?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Pam, did I pass?
Wonderful. Just checking.
And it's gonna rain, I gotta go. I'm a weather forecaster. Rules come by. See you guys.
Looks like we have another member of the public.
Have another member of the public. For those
Thank
of you
you.
who don't know who I am, so my name is Mary Brown, and I'm a resident of Truckee. And I'm on this side of the podium tonight because I want to tell you about my recent 3-day stay in your incredible establishment here. Everything, what I want to convey is that everything that we have heard about patient care and patient satisfaction is absolutely true. It bends my brain. In fact, I think it's probably an understatement. It's just incredible. I teasingly wrote to Louis after we had our retreat that maybe next time we should put a label on the board packet that says, warning, 2-day board retreats can be hazardous to your health. Because that night I got home and I started having these pains, and they got progressively worse and worse and worse. And so the following morning I called my daughter and she drove me here to the ER. And I got to tell you, I was scared. I haven't been in a hospital since our youngest child was born 48 years ago. I was just like anybody else. I was scared to death. So my first encounter was with just the most wonderful ED nurse, Brian Litzko was his name, and he was the right person at the right time for me. And I didn't know it at the time, but he became exemplary of what I saw all throughout the hospital, which was that everybody was capable, they were compassionate, and they were communicative. And it was remarkable. I was fortunate to be assigned to Dr. Young, who arranged me to have a tour from the inside out of the new CT scanner. And, what a game changer that piece of machinery is. And my thanks to the foundation and to all the generous donors who made that tool available to us here. It's pretty amazing. But then came those 6 fateful words. We are going to admit you. Whoa. Well, not right away. Time went by, and there wasn't a room available, so I did have to stick around for a bit. But I was never left to just wait. There was always a kind word and a warm blanket just a step away, which was terrific. Once I moved upstairs, the capable, compassionate, communicative care continued. So how's that for alliteration? That's a good one. That's a mouthful. Dr. Perrins took over my case, and if you haven't met Dr. Perrins, he's remarkable, and he brought the energy to my case that I think he does to breathing. It's crazy. I had 3 fabulous, amazing, incredible nurses, Allison, Rob, and Ann. 2 of these nurses credited Alice Wong for hiring them and training them. So I got to tell you, Alice, I have yet another reason to love you. So that was great. Anyway, my gratitude could go on to Kate and Dietary, Mila and Radiology, Keith and Transport, Dee and Rachel. I'm sure others that I have forgotten, but lest anyone should think that I was afforded any kind of special care because I'm a member of the board of directors. I got to tell you, I went to great lengths not to let anybody know that. I just didn't want to talk about my association with the hospital. But there was one young man who came in, he was filling in on one of somebody's breaks, and he looked at me and he said, I've seen you before. I know your face. In fact, I've seen your face. It's on a wall. And it's downstairs. So I thought that was great. But as Louis said when we were communicating back and forth, he said every patient should and can feel like a member of the board of directors. And I think that's very true, and I think they do. So to all of you, for all that you do to make this village the incredible place that it is, I can't thank you enough. So, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Any other input from audience? Nope. Do we have employee association? Timed item. Chandler.
Are you going to introduce me?
If you wouldn't mind, yeah.
Is red on? Is red off?
Well, we have a timed item at 6:15 with Chandler, and then we'll come back to, so we're gonna,
Do you know how long this time item is?
Not long.
not long. Depends how many questions Dale has. Yeah.
Questions anymore. Or are there more questions than answers?
Are we ready?
Please, yes.
Okay. I'd like to welcome Elena Sampson from Chandler Investments. Normally, she would provide an update to the Board of Directors on an annual basis, but with the interesting dynamics that are happening with the federal government and kind of the market volatility that we're watching, we thought it would be a good idea to give a little bit of an update to the overall board. Elena joined us in Finance Committee, did give a quick update in Finance Committee as well, but we've asked her to join us this evening just to give a brief update on the portfolio, the economic conditions, and that you can breathe a pretty decent sigh of relief based upon our investment policy, the conservatism of it, and where our investments sit. So, Elena, I'm going to turn it over to you and welcome this evening.
Thank you very much, Crystal. And I understood that the presentation would be shared on my behalf on the screen.
Yep.
Fantastic. So I can't see it, so as long as it says Economic Update, page 1. The next page, please. Are we able to go to the subsequent page?
Sorry.
Fantastic, thank you. So as I shared with the Finance Committee on Tuesday, the data on this page is all backwards looking, and what it shows is that the broad economic data has been suggesting a little bit of slowing. However, the labor market and consumer that you see there on the page has remained on solid footing, and the housing data has also come in better than expected. Now, the Fed has expressed that they are overall and well positioned because unlike when they were in the zero interest rate environment, at 4.25%, which you can see at the bottom of the page, it's above inflation levels, so they have room to maneuver. And this is important because we're hearing worries about stagflation, which means low economic growth and high inflation. That is beginning to creep into conversation. And while recession is not expected, the probability has increased. Now, with all of that, what you don't see on the page is tariffs, and that's the thing that most people want to talk about now. As Crystal stated, your investment policy really places the safety and liquidity as the utmost priorities, and this is serving you very well. I will note that at the beginning of April, we saw the tariffs go into effect for countries around the world based on a calculation that was focused on the goods trade deficit between the U.S. and foreign countries. We did not see the calculation include services, which we provide a lot of exports of in this country. Now, after the implementation, given the speed and size, we saw an absolute roller coaster of the markets. And the next day, the administration put a 90-day hold on the implementation. This provides companies as well as countries time to negotiate and those companies time to adapt, figure out what they need to do to move around. Now, there are some tariffs that are still in place despite that pause. The 10% universal tariffs are still in place across the board. Anything that is not compliant with USMCA, that's the new name of NAFTA, those goods that are non-compliant are at a 25% level. Auto, steel, and aluminum tariffs remain at 25%, with the auto parts tariff starting on May 3rd. And then the major focus that many of us are thinking about is China. There is 145% tariff on them, and in turn, they have placed a 125% tariff on us. Now, what we've heard this week is that there is room to start negotiating on tariffs. And yesterday, every day I say to the Finance Committee is a new day. Yesterday, despite the desire for Powell to cut rates sooner, the president stated that he does not plan to fire him. And this really helped support the market rallying. Altogether, the smaller list of tariffs and the brakes being pumped on that implementation makes the Fed's job a little bit easier to navigate than those 70 countries' individual tariff policies. So if we go to the next slide, this shows you the bond yields, and it shows monthly movements on the left-hand side. And every time there's a powerful speech by someone at the federal level, these numbers have been moving around. And on the right-hand side, apologies, my first comment was about the left-hand side. My next comment is about the right-hand side, the U.S. Treasury yield curve. The key point is that the short end of the curve dropped in the 2 to 5 year portion of the curve, which is a positive for the district's total market value. When market yields go down, your market value of your existing portfolio goes up. So today, where are we with bond yields? Where are we with the overall markets? The pause on the tariffs has decreased some of the inflation worries and gives the markets a little bit of time to assess if this is a one-time price hike or if it's going to be persistent. The second is that it's the possible higher inflation along with deficit concerns. You see on the right-hand side, this shows March 2025. If we were showing this report as of mid-April, we would see a steepening in the 10 to 30-year parts of the curve. Your portfolio is not invested in those parts, but it's good to understand what the market is worried about. And the administration cares about where the 10-year part of the curve is because that affects housing affordability. And the last thing I'll note here is the difference with the US dollar reaction. Typically, when there's uncertainty in the marketplace, we see the US dollar strengthening. But this time it's been different and we've seen weakening. My example is that with the euro to the US dollar on January 1st, it was priced at about 1.04. And today we've seen a depreciation of the US dollar of about 10%, with you now buying with $1 US 1.15 euros. But I'll repeat, your portfolio is in a good place. In 2022, we saw the worst bond market in history. We weathered that storm with your conservative investment policy. And the portfolio today is doing what it should do when the stock market is jumping around. By having that conservative investment policy, it is being resilient, which we'll see on the next page. If we can go to slide 3. In the middle of the page, this is really small, I know, but it shows you an overall picture of your portfolio. But right in the middle where it says account summary, you come down 3 lines, it says total market value. And you can see that big movement in interest rates that I talked about on the prior page increased your portfolio value in 1 month by $500,000. That goes back to my comment on that prior page about the 2 to 5 year points on the curve, those yields declining. Really keeping a safe and liquid portfolio is benefiting the district. Presently, we are purchasing more U.S. Treasuries in the portfolio than agencies, mainly because there's not been a lot of new issuance. And we have been extraordinarily selective about our credit purchases. The market had to put a complete pause on new issue corporates, and thereby we have been slow to want to purchase anything in the secondary market with that limited pricing availability. But again, positive this week is that we saw names like Walmart and life insurance companies come back to market because they're seeing signs of stability and they want to shore up their balance sheets with cash by taking out that debt. I'll add that your CFO, Crystal Felix, and I, we do meet monthly, and we discuss the liquidity needs and upcoming maturities within your portfolio. The plan is to use some upcoming maturities to support your current construction needs. And for the maturities that are taking place in fiscal year 2026, she and I will stay in very close communication to determine whether we need to reinvest or perhaps move those funds to late, just to make sure that it's in a liquid fund. If you turn to the final page, please, I'll note that there's a small amount, about $893,000, that's in your money market account. This is also continuing to earn interest and is available to the district for immediate withdrawal. All to say, between these two portfolios, your portfolio continues to be well positioned for any of the optionality that the district may need, and we at Chandler stand ready to make any adjustments that is necessary for the district as the environment continues to evolve. So I'll stop there for any questions.
Any questions?
This
Oh,
is
sorry.
Mary. Just wanted to thank you once again for putting us in good stead. And I thought it was important for everyone to hear this, because I think there's been a lot of pressing of palms and a lot of general angst out there. So I think this was informative and helpful.
Any audience input? No, and this was just an item for discussion, so no approval needed. Apologies, that was a timed item, so we did go to item 14. We'll now go back to item 12, the MEC
Thank you, Elena.
report. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, Dr. Cope.
No problems. So this is Dr. Koch. Is that working? I have the button pushed. I'm giving you the consent agenda from our medical executive committee tonight, and there are 4 policies or plans with minor changes. Those are the fitness for duty, the medical staff professionalism complaint process, the well-being policy, and the SPD structure standards. Of those 4, the fitness for duty policy has a revised risk statement in order to be more accurate and concise, and then it has some clerical revisions, literally just simple word substitutions. The medical staff professionalism complaint process has a revised risk statement, and then it has a change in the reporting structure that includes now the chair of the department, so that it's a more appropriate step there. And then it also includes referral to the Leadership Council Committee is at the chair's discretion. By including the chair, we have that option. And the chief of staff is now going to be required to review and reassign any events with a conflict of interest. We have also removed removal of the complaint line, and then we've added that the risk manager will refer the event to the medical staff manager or director of the member, if the member is also an employee. With regard to the well-being policy, again, just revised risk statement and clerical revisions, and same with the sterile processing process, just clerical revisions. The next policy is an actual revision in privileges, and that is the addition of bone marrow biopsy to the nurse practitioner privilege form, and then also a required change to inpatient pediatrics for nurse practitioners and PAs only. The NRP requirements were changed. In the last group of policies, there were no changes, and these are the Evotech once-a-week self-disinfect cycle, the flexible endoscope reprocessing and storage, the immediate use of steam sterilization, the OPA disinfection, and the workflow. No changes to any of those policies. You got any questions?
Dr. Cook, it's not a question, but just with the fitness.
Whoops.
When they went through the revisions, and the risk that it refers to Tahoe Forest Health System, but in the rest of the policy, it refers to Tahoe Forest Hospital District. So I just wondered if we should be more consistent.
Yes, that was the intent of changing the name, so we have a little more work to do.
Approve it with that change? Which policy?
It's with the fitness for duty. In the risks, the new risk statement, you refer to Tahoe Forest Health System, but in the rest of the policy, it's Tahoe Forest Hospital District.
Yes, is it okay if we can it be approved with that change?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
The
yeah.
motion includes that for this particular policy, the fitness for duty policy, that the risk statement be revised to say Tahoe Forest Health District, that would be.
Hospital system. We're switching to hospital system from health district.
Are we?
Hospital district.
Oh, sorry, hospital district.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Because all the rest of the policies refer to us as the hospital district. So
Yeah.
that would be my only, the only.
Good catch.
correction.
And Dave, we can't approve with that change noted?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
as long as it's in the motion.
Okay.
And I know that the sterile processing was a long, tedious policy. It has everything in it. It has a lot of abbreviations. And I just, again, want to go back to, we may know about what they are, but when we get reviewed, will they know what those abbreviations are? So it talks about AORN, a couple other accrediting bodies or organizations that they belong to.
Yeah, I do see just an example of what you're talking about, HSPA, formerly IAHCSMM.
Yes. That's the one.
CDC and FDA, most people will know, but AORN, maybe not, and then OSHA. I think that's a reasonable point to make.
I don't think it should hold up anything for being approved, but as we go through and making new, revising and reviewing policies, to always look at that, to make sure we're being consistent about who we are. We're a hospital district, and then if there's abbreviations, how we will identify those.
So I think that's a great point. And the HSPA is the one that is never defined and probably needs to be defined. So that's a good idea. Are we able to approve it with that clarification?
Do you want to are you suggesting those changes are made, or are you suggesting that's for future consideration in policy?
Oh,
changes?
great question.
Those
Oh,
two,
for me,
yeah.
for future.
Okay, so not
So
recommending
we can
these changes.
approve this as is, but going forward,
Or with the one correction of the hospital
Correct.
district.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I've got a question, Dr. Cook, on this nurse practitioners and physician assistants. When we keep hearing about physician shortages, do we see in the future a further expansion of their capabilities and hiring more of them to fill in for any physician shortages that we do have?
I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And so, I think there are a lot of people in this room who could answer that question with their own views, but I don't think anybody knows where that's going. I mean, clearly that's what's been happening. Clearly nurse practitioners and physician assistants are filling roles that allow MDs or DOs to extend their reach, to extend their expertise to a larger number of patients by overseeing, supervising, or coordinating, collaborating with advanced clinicians. So that does seem to be the role that's going to likely be expanded, but, yeah.
Can I make a comment? There's numerous areas where we have difficulty recruiting physicians in this community. They tend to be the same ones that other places are having the same difficulty, and we do look for opportunities to bring in an APP to augment a physician. We do that all over the place. One example of that would be infectious diseases. We have a part-time infectious disease specialist, and we augment his service with a PA. And that's been working out quite well. We may do more of that, actually. And there's plenty of other examples of that. So we look at each individual specialty. Are we having difficulty recruiting physicians? And we definitely look at APPs for those types of situations. Yeah, cardiology is another good example.
I'm just curious, a question about fitness of duty, it just goes to the procedure upon receipt of an alleged complaint, the nursing supervisor will contact one of the following individuals, investigator in the order listed below. I guess my overall question, and I'll pose it several different ways, has this been tested? Had we had to use this? And the reason I ask it that way is that are these lists of people supported in that role? And the third why I say that is I've seen this happen, and it is not a pleasant situation. And in my experience, police had to be called. So I just want to make sure, again, if it's worked, it's fine. I'm just curious to the history of emergency physician on duty. I get that. Maybe it was 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. And so I'm just curious, has it been used? Do you feel confident that if this were to have to be implemented, this is the correct order.
So in my institutional memory, it has not been utilized. But the other question, which I think is a really good one, is do the people who are responsible for taking action feel empowered and educated and prepared to take action if they need to? And, Jen, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah.
No, I really feel that we are empowered to follow the policy and be able to look at that. But in the same, in my history, I've never seen that we've had to use that, so.
Thank you very much.
I know it could
I hope we never
definitely
use it.
happen, but.
Good questions, though.
And there's a procedure, in the first paragraph, it refers to,
This is the fitness for duty also?
yes.
Okay.
It's the provider's behavior or physical condition appears raises a reasonable likelihood that due to intoxication. And is that the only word we want to use? Because intoxication doesn't necessarily include other substances.
Oh, I think intoxication is a broad term that would
Okay.
include any substances. When you asked that, the question that came to my mind, which had not occurred to me before, is do we want to simply say altered mental status, which might include somebody who may be having some other medical condition that's causing them not to be competent, that has nothing to do with substance use? You know,
Okay.
I think we can look at that. I think that a broader definition might be appropriate for us, so we could take that one offline and look at it. But I agree with you, intoxication would be a broad term that would be all-encompassing.
But it brought up another one, so
But
we're all
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So
I would request we approve the policy as is, but we will also take it back in it, so the policy may come back to you with an additional revision.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move approval.
Oh, I thought you might have a question.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Just any input, audience? No. Okay, so this is an item for action, so if we can get a motion. Remembering the motion needs to include the suggested changes.
With the suggested changes, I'll move approval of the Medical Staff Executive Committee report.
A second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Consent agenda approved, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And a very lively discussion on
I know.
policy, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Item 13, consent calendar. These are items expected to be routine and non-controversial. Will be acted on the board without discussion, unless there are any items that the board member would like to pull. Hearing none. We go. Any
Staff.
any staff or audience wish to pull any of the items?
Just to clarify, staff cannot pull items, but they can provide public comment about any item on the consent
Okay.
agenda.
Okay.
Only the board members can pull an item.
Thank you for the clarification. All right.
I would move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Approved 5-0. Item 14.1 we already covered, so we only have one item for board action this evening. Item 15.1, conflict of interest code. The board will consider approval of an updated conflict of interest code. Legal counsel will walk us through the code and some of the changes made.
Every 2 years, every local agency needs to review and, if necessary, update their conflict of interest code. Conflict of interest code essentially incorporates by reference the regulations adopted by the Fair Political Practices Commission. And then the only thing that it does in addition to that is identifies the particular positions and the reporting requirements for those positions, depending upon the extent in which they're involved in decision-making regarding contracts and financial decisions of the hospital district. So there were only, I believe, 2 or 3 updates to that list of positions, which a red line, I believe, is in the packet. And our board clerk has provided the public noticing necessary for the update, and unless something's changed since the posting, no one has requested a public hearing. And so at this point, if approved, it will be forwarded to the Fair Political Practices Commission and will be our conflict of interest code going forward.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Any comments, questions from the board? Yeah, the changes are very, very limited. See a lot of scrolling. Any?
No, I concur. I mean, there's not much to talk. It is line items.
Few
It
title
is,
changes,
yeah, exactly. I mean, you see direct vice president, facilities management, construction. You see that their director, it's of nursing. So to me, you asked for a comment. The comment is like you said. I echo that. It's work. It's redirecting titles. But to me, I see no big change that I can further discuss.
Any audience input? Hearing none, this is an item for action, so we need a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion for let me get the title. So it's the amended Conflict of Interest Code as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Approved 5-0, thank you very much. We are moving through the agenda quickly tonight. Item 16, there were no consent calendar items pulled. Board committee reports, and we have at least a finance committee. Were there
Executive Comp Committee met.
executive comp committee, any other? No?
We did not meet, but I'd take 30 seconds, give an update.
Okay, well, we go down the road, we can start with your update.
No, we're up to date.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So obviously, just since it's community engagement, obviously, we had a retreat, and so I think that's in the notes. I'm not going to go further, but the work continues. I think I've had community people ask me, what does this community engagement mean? How can people get involved? And so I wanted to just make an announcement that it's after having the retreat, things have become more clear. Now, being clear that there's no definitive answer as a board member of what next steps are. And so I wanted to report that I've been in conversation with Director McGarry to see what those next steps are on a board level of what that would mean to have community engagement. In addition, I just really wanted to call out, I've really enjoyed working with the Community Health Index group, met with them yesterday, and really understanding that we have a goal at the end of this year by June to have 5 out of 5, and we're currently at 3 out of 5 at Community Health that have met. But I want to even call out that what this year has been about is just really building the structure. So it may look like, we didn't make 5 out of 5, but I am so excited about all the work that's been done behind the scenes to get there. So that is the update, and I look to give more when we have our meeting.
Thank you.
The Executive Comp Committee met on April the 9th, and what we did was we looked at our charter, number one, and you'll be seeing that coming in your consent agenda next week, or next month. Essentially, we didn't find anything that we wanted to change or add to the charter itself, so that will remain the same. And then we looked at our incentive compensation consultant evaluation, and we looked at Alliant, which used to be Future Sense, who gives us some information about salaries for CEOs, other information about what CEOs are getting across the country, as well as regional, as well as compared to like-sized facilities, which I have to tell you is being a real struggle, because we really are different. So we've decided that we're going to keep working with Alliant on our compensation package, and they're going to give us a listing of those hospitals that we've been compared to in the past, and looking at, who do we want to be compared with coming up for the 2026. Like I said, we don't have a lot of people that we can compare ourselves apples to apples with, but there are some things that we can compare ourselves with. So again, we look forward to working with them, and we found that Human Resources, who does most of the work with Alliant, has really found them very valuable in their service. So we'll continue to work on that. They're going to give us a pre-read of what it might look like for 2026, and we will see that before we even meet. The other thing that we looked at was the fiscal year 2025 President and CEO incentive compensation criteria and where we are in meeting those. And we're finding that a lot of it has time elements to it, so we're going to have to wait a couple more months to see how it all shakes out. But we do find that there are criteria that we've already met in terms of our work bundles and some of the other criteria that we've used. So we're on our way to completing those criteria for 2025. We really need to look at those before we look at the ones for 2020, to set ones for 2026. And we looked at a variety of things of adding, but essentially we're going to continue to look at the peaks and where we want to be with our incentive comp on that. So we're asking all of our committees, quality and engagement, all of the committees to tell us what do they see in their meetings that really are the successes you want to make sure that we meet in 2026. So I'll send out a memo through Sarah to ask for your input on that. So at your next meeting, I'd ask you to have that discussion. And then we'll also carry through at our next meeting on the President and CEO job description and whether we need to revise that or any way of enhance that. So our next meeting is sometime in May we're looking at. It has not been set yet. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Alice. Not officially a committee, but as Rob mentioned, we did have a board retreat. I think actually many of the people in the room participated in one way or another. It was 2 days of wonderful conversation, so clearly won't recap it all, but the central theme of it was around community and community engagement, community peak, and really thinking about where do we fit in the community and what's our evolving role. This is a conversation happening not just here in Tahoe, but really around the country, right? Is what are the evolving needs of health systems? Is it enough to just be a sick care system of injury and illness? Do we need to reach out around health? Do we need to have sort of alternate sites of care? And I don't necessarily mean legally, but do we need to meet people where they are, and not expect them to only come to us? So really engaging conversation, but some of the feedback we received, we tried a few things that I don't want to say new because I think they might have existed in the past, but really opened up the retreat to a lot of folks other than just board members, and so included staff, included some members of the public, and honoring our commitment, which we've made to be much more transparent, to seek feedback, and not just limit it to board meetings, for example, which we acknowledge this is not the ideal place to have those conversations. So it's a wonderful dialogue. And I was really pleased with the outcomes of it. But I don't know if any other feedback from the board retreat. But
I would like to mention that both Anna and I attended the Incline Village Foundation board meeting. She got to meet that vibrant and highly engaged group. They were celebrating the receipt of $7.8 million from Duffield to redo the OR, and even though they collected this tremendous amount of money, they're still engaged in fundraising, and they've got an event planned for this summer that's going to add to their coffers. So they're just an amazing group, and it's an amazing community too. So anyway,
absolutely, and a very generous gift as well. All right, and then Finance, I think, is the last committee.
Well, yes, the Finance Committee met on Tuesday. I'm going to start with the bright spots first. And that was certainly results from the previous month. They continue to be stellar, and we are truly in rarefied territory. And also, I was very heartened to see that our accounts receivable continued to be on the decline. And I think that, I think it's been a huge effort on the part of everybody in that department. And it's really paying off now, and look forward to further declines. We also had the presentation that you heard from Elena. It was a little bit broader in scope and what have you, but it's always interesting to hear from her and get her national input, as well as hear how we're doing in our own portfolio. But we also heard a presentation from Crystal on Medicaid and Medicare cuts that are potential, and that are kind of looming large out there. And I would love to be articulate enough to express this to you and what the ramifications of all of those are, because I think it's important for the board to hear the range of possibilities. And so I've asked Crystal if she could summarize her presentation and give you all an idea of what's going on today. What's going on?
Yeah. Tomorrow maybe.
Yeah, and probably different than tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. I don't like ending a board meeting on a down note, but that's where we're going to go with this information,
I wish
so.
Michael had gone back.
No, I got some
know.
upbeat comments right after yours. Don't
Bear
worry
with
about
me.
it. Yeah.
So obviously, back in January, we had a change in the federal administration, and back then, they had come out with a list very early in January of potential cuts to Medicare and Medicaid that were targeting $5.3 to $5.7 trillion, which was pretty huge. Everything from, they had topics such as strengthening Medicare for seniors, and by doing that, they were targeting uncompensated care payments, site-neutral payments, bad debt payments to providers. They were targeting making Medicaid work for the most vulnerable, but in that, they were going to limit Medicaid provider taxes, lowering what's called FMAP, and what FMAP actually stands for is the Federal Medical Assistant Percentage, and this is where the states utilize a matching principle from the federal government to help fund programs. So they would lower that federal matching floor. And so they had this big list of things they were talking about where they were going to find this $5.3 to $5.7 trillion in cuts. Well, then last month, they took that $5.7 trillion and reality kind of came into play, because there was a budget resolution that came through that directed the Energy and Commerce Committee to cut $880 billion over the next 10 years. And the CBO, or Congressional Budget Office, they said there's no way they can do that without cutting the Medicaid program. And when this hit the Ways and Means Committee, that's when this began to get teeth and started really growing us very worried about where things were going. So there's several areas that $880 billion was going to come from. One was the Medicaid FMAP penalty for covering illegal aliens with state-only money. So the federal government was going to impose reductions to the state's match if they continued to fund, as they put it, illegal aliens through the state's Medicaid program. Currently, California and New York offer these programs, so California would be impacted with a reduction in federal matching dollars. They were also discussing lowering the Medicaid matching rate floor. So right now, 50% of the Medicare reimbursement is matched by the federal government, and they're talking about reducing that match from 50% or lower. Could be 45, could be 40, it could be 0. We don't really know. So that would impose a greater responsibility on the states to fund the Medicaid reimbursement program, which we'll talk about the state of California in a second. We also have that they would equalize the FMAP, or the match for ACA expansion population. When the states under Obamacare were able to expand coverage, the federal match was 90%. and they're talking about reducing that to at least 50/50, if not lower. So that additional reimbursement we would get for the expanded population would be greatly reduced. And lastly is establishing work requirements for those that are covered by the Medicaid program. And so this was where they were going, which for us is pretty significant because the supplemental programs we participate in as a district hospital utilize the federal matching principle. You've heard me talk about rate range, the IGTs that we send. That is all utilizing the federal match. And so those supplemental funds, if these things go through, would be greatly reduced, as well as the imposition it's going to put on our state government. So the state right now just came out with what their budget is looking like. And between the Legislative Analyst Department or the Department of Finance, both are showing a deficit. And even though the state of California has a rainy day fund, that rainy day fund, if they continue to progress in this manner, will be done and utilized by basically 2027. So that's without taking on this added responsibility of funding these Medicaid programs if the federal matching percentage gets reduced. So this is not great news overall, and we will be watching this very, very closely. We will be talking to folks like Kevin Kiley to help support protecting the Medicaid program and some of the Medicare program. You will also hear that they're saying, wow, we're not trying to make cuts to Medicaid benefits. So that's kind of their safe word, is by calling it Medicaid benefits. They're not touching our Medicaid benefits. Well, if they touch the reimbursement or touch the programs, that's going to require providers to reduce programs or reduce access, and that will impact their benefits. So it's a roundabout way of them saying, we're not touching benefits. The other thing that we continue to kind of keep an eye on, and obviously CHA, California Hospital Association, the District Hospital Leadership Forum, are all watching this. Each district hospital, they're working on creating a mechanism where we can calculate by hospital the impacts it has. So we'll be able to kind of calculate almost automatically when these things start looking closer and closer to reality, what type of financial impact that will be on us. I did just a quick one on the rate range program, and in 2023, the rate range program had supplemental funding to us that totaled about $4.8 million. That's when the federal match was 62%. If that was to drop to 50%, it would reduce that one program alone for Tahoe Forest by about $2 million. If it was to drop to 45%, it would be $2.5 million just for one program alone. And we probably have, well, some of these programs are getting consolidated. It's now all kind of funneling it into the directed payment program. But all those that are funneling together are about 5 separate programs that relied on the federal match to be able to do the supplemental funding. So it's pretty impactful. We talked about this quite a bit at Finance Committee, and it's just something we need to keep a very close eye on and be our advocates on Tahoe Forest's behalf with those that represent us at the federal level and state levels, and use our voice.
Great.
Crystal, we're in the enviable position of having in excess of 200 days of cash reserves, and as we well know, there are lots of hospitals, rural hospitals, that are on the bitter edge of solvency.
Absolutely.
Do you have conversations with some of these other CFOs, and how do they sleep at night?
They don't. So those that, I participate on the executive committee for the District Hospital Leadership Forum. Louis is very involved at CHA. Weekly, the DHLF has a CFO call And then we have 4 board meetings a year with the CEOs. There are several CEOs and their CFOs that recognize that if these things materialize, it literally will close our doors. One of the largest facilities, a very vocal member is Kauai Delta. Gary Herbst, who is their CEO, has been around for a very long time, and he's very active in with his representatives, voicing what's going on. And he shared with me at a meeting that his representative, I'm not going to say blew him off, but it says, "You'll figure it out, Gary. You always do." So there's a little bit of numbness, I think, that like we're crying wolf, but it will have an impact significantly on several hospitals. If you look at the district hospitals that have been participating and raising their voice with their representatives, I think we counted, at least 10 of them have probably said, we're done. So it's a big deal.
And how would their closing, Barton, Carson Tahoe, for instance, if they closed, presumably we would have an influx of people coming to us for services, would we not?
It would definitely impact access to care, and folks are going to seek care at the closest place that still survives. We're very fortunate to be in a position where it would not close our doors right away.
Right.
But not knowing how access will shift, not knowing what the state will do, really gives me pause, especially when I'm about to bring forward a budget to you with a 10-year forecast. Talk about a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Don't have it. It's very concerning.
So,
This is a board committee report, so.
Yeah.
so it's okay to,
I mean, we should, it's a report from the finance committee, so you know, extended discussion is not agendized.
okay, that's why I wanted to double check, yeah. It was a lengthy committee report, but we felt warranted under the circumstances. We did also talk about scenario analysis and planning. There's a lot of what ifs, and we can't get into the hypotheticals, but moving forward conservatively with an ounce of caution is probably in our best interest at this point. The other thing we talked about in the Finance Committee was tariffs and the impact that'll have on the ongoing construction projects that we have. Steel prices alone, shot up, let alone everything else, right? And so we're more than half pregnant on those projects. We're not pulling them back in, but we have a lot of unexpected cost that may change tomorrow. I mean, we're all operating under the I'll tell you about the future tomorrow mindset. We just don't know. So we've asked, Crystal to be as forthcoming as possible, recognizing so many times it's a shoulder shrug and we don't know. So, but with that, we'll close that. I would encourage the board and others, if there are items that need to be on the agenda on these topics, please let us know well in advance. By the time we actually get on the agenda, it might change, meaning the policy or what's going on in the country, but definitely keeping a close eye on it. I think that was all the committees. Any others? All right. I had a few closing comments building on some of the comments I made about the board retreat, and I just wanted to restate our commitment to transparency, to communication, just spotlight one example. I had the opportunity to join the MEC meeting this month, and at the end, I'm going to put Anna on the spot. The group in attendance made sure to be very vocal about how it was the best CEO update that they had received. It wasn't just a reading of a laundry list of accomplishments or things that happened. It was a very heartfelt conversation. It was an open dialogue, and that's what we're really promoting, and not only within the board, but it's one of the primary reasons. We're attracted to Anna and excited to bring her on board. So we're really looking forward to build on that. But with that, I'll close the meeting and we'll adjourn. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight.